What is a freakoff? The freakoff essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism.
He had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles. It then moved to studio lighting.
They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to
claim that she is lying, but it will be difficult to prove given that video. At the beginning of the day, Dottie's family appeared in court once more with a determined demeanor. But his twin daughters, Jessie and Delilah, left the courthouse with a dejected expression on their faces and hardly a word. His mother, Janice, and sons, King and Justin, were also present, but no one was.
Need you to step to the side. Step to the side, please. Are you guys feeling? Happy birthday. Step to the side, please. What's up? What's up? What's your butt? Great. How can you bought it today? Congratulations at NYU, Chef. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Give us a little space. Golden Nation.
Nice little cute smile. It's got
Step to the side, please.
like you guys can't be by his parents everything.
Yeah. Wait. Watch out. Watch out. Give us a little space, please. All right, sir. Back to this one. Give us a little space. Yeah. Oh, chocolate eating it. Got a cigarette. Oh. Lost that belt. Back up. Sorry, back up. Gotta wipe with red. Hey, man, Sean, man, be good, bro. Okay. Charlie.
Diddy's trial's second day just ended, and although the prosecution had a good day, it wasn't a complete blowout, but something significant did occur at the conclusion of the day that might alter every
Star witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past a man she had not seen in 6.5 years. A man she says violently abused her for a decade. A man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony. Diddy, well, he was more fidgety than he was the day before. He was passing notes, he pushed himself away from the defense table and largely sat like that. They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off sex parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy. But feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it. Now, with each moment, the testimony became more and more graphic. Her delivery, though, it never changed. It was matter of fact, steady, calm. At times, she was even critical of herself, walking us all through how a 10-album record deal came over a 10-year period of abuse and sexual humiliation. Now, once you hear Cassie's testimony, you'll understand why the court...
Her powerful testimony, Diddy's ex-girlfriend claimed that he used to intimidate and control her by threatening to release private videos, or what she called freak-off videos, which were essentially graphic videos of her and other people, if she didn't comply with his demand.
unique, though. Sure, but is that what he's doing? Is he running an entertainment and fashion industry, or is he running essentially a criminal organization?
By the way, we have a poll up right now. You can participate in it. Do you think Cassie Ventura was a victim or partner in this? Ready for this? 82%. Well, this doesn't make sense. 82% say yes. I don't know if that's yes to, I think we need clarification. 82% say victim or partner. We'll get a clarification on that.
By the way,
right now.
but that's my answer to that question.
Oh,
Was
okay.
she a victim or a
82%
partner?
say victim. 82% say victim. Maybe based on we're reporting on the testimony right now.
I mean, I think she is a victim if the allegations are true, but also she is involved in some of the criminal act. I mean, she's getting those prostitutes, right? She's making payments to them, allegedly. She's having them come. So she's involved in some of the alleged criminal activity. And that's an interesting point that wouldn't just apply to her. Other people in his orbit might be some combination of victim and co-conspirator.
But you know what? That video changes everything, because the argument would be, what do you think happens if she says no?
Yeah.
What do you think happens if she says, I'm not in the mood for a freak off tonight. I'm not going to pay the dancer. That's what's going to happen. That video is arguably the most important piece of evidence because it sets the stage when we're talking about coercion or force. Question from Angelina. How old was Cassie when they first started dating? I think she was 19 years old, so you're talking about a 17-year age difference. That's important. I think that's an important factor if you're talking about power and control, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The fact that he's older and obviously has much more power anyway.
Sherry Williams asks, what kind of time is Diddy facing if he's found guilty?
That's significant because the prosecution is attempting to demonstrate that Diddy used coercion, which is defined as using force or threats. Diddy's statement, "Do what I want or I'll leak this" video sounds a lot like coercion. Cassie didn't state, however. Diddy said, "Do this or I'll release the video." She didn't directly link the threat to her actions. If she had, the case might have been clear-cut. However, she hasn't closed that loop yet, so the jury is still unsure that he had that kind of power over her. We know that he did this to women before her, including Kim Porter, who also happened to have died.
I'm sure he came out saying that Kim Porter death needs to be looked into. I think that Al being his ex-wife, he have every right, knowing about the stuff that came out about Diddy and what he was doing. You understand what he has done in the past, and people have overlooked. By him coming out and saying that he hoped that he could get her case reopened. There was a guy called John Paperwork, the Paperwork Party. They would put in an open petition to get Kim's case reopened. You understand what I'm saying? So I'll be sure doing this is showing that, you know, he still got love for Quincy's mother. He still want to find out the truth because allegedly Kim was found the day before and the day of her death. And then now she found in the bed dead from pneumonia. That just don't sound right, bro. That don't sound right at all. So you feel the same way about her death being suspect?
I don't think nobody in America thinks nothing suspicious about Kim's death, bro. If you are rich like that, you could, you know, Kim had, I think, a net worth of like, what, 12 million a year or something like that? Kim could have called any doctor to come over and look at her. If she was that bad, you know, she could have called an ambulance or something like that. Everything is suspicious about her death, bro. And I don't think an autopsy was done on her. And if it was a half job.
You personally, right? What do you think happened to Kim Porter?
If I say something personal, bro, and my belief, and I put it on to the public, then I might be
The jury needs to know what Diddy said or did to put pressure on Cassie. But it's not just about how she felt. Prosecutors also presented other troubling testimony from Cassie, who described being humiliated and saying she didn't want to be involved in these freak-offs at all. She even claimed that she brought it up gently with him because she didn't want to make him angry, which shows fear.
A criminal enterprise, and how, based on the opening statement from yesterday, he didn't just have staff who were helping him commit the crimes, but also covering them up. Just now, an update from court. Prosecutor asked Cassie Ventura, how would he keep tabs on you? To which she apparently responds, he didn't live far apart. Oh, we didn't live far apart. He'd send security to come find me or a trusted assistant. Like who? David James, Christina Coram, who we all know has been a central figure in this case. Maybe not the criminal case, but she's come up in lawsuits before. The prosecutor asks her, was your relationship exclusive? Ventura replies, no. If she's naming names like David James or Christina Coram, do they have to testify, you think?
I don't think they have to testify, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. I would think this is all planned out, that she's going to indicate some people and then the prosecution is going to bring them in later in the trial to verify, right? one thing you really want to do with a witness like this, the defense is going to say that she's embellishing. They might say she's lying, but that's going to be a little hard to do with that video, right? They can't just say she's a liar, but they're going to say she's exaggerating, she's embellishing, they're painting it a certain way because of the case. So you have to bring in these corroborating witnesses and whatever other corroborating evidence you have to verify what it is she's saying. So it would be very useful, for example, if she says, yes, David James came around to check on me on behalf of Mr. Combs, and then David James takes the stand and says, yes, I did.
Indeed, the situation became much more explicit when Cassie asked, did he or those he instructed urinate on her during these freak-offs? The prosecutor inquired, did you want that? Cassie responded bluntly, no, it was disgusting. I choked, and I didn't want anyone to do that. The defense may argue, did you say no clearly? Did he force you anyway? That's what the law cares about, proof of force or threats. In response to the question of why she didn't say no, Cassie acknowledged that she never explicitly gave permission, but she also didn't explicitly say stop, which creates a gray area that the defense may...
Interesting to see how they react and respond to the alleged victim, Cassie Ventura, because she is expecting her third child and is clearly pregnant. So how jurors will kind of see that or visually how they take that into consideration, we don't know, but really they're supposed to make sure that they stay fair and impartial and pay attention to the facts, which is something even the judge warned them about before they were official jurors.
Diddy maintains his innocence against all charges brought against him. Cassie, the prosecution's key witness in the case against the embattled mogul.
The defense acknowledged that the videos of alleged freak-offs will be shown, but that those videos, they said, didn't come from the government's investigation so much as it came directly from Cassie's phone. But they were essentially trying to raise doubt about why did she hold on to these videos, and again making this argument that this case is about love and infidelity and money. But the prosecution is saying, no, you will hear from witnesses that will tell you that they were abused, they were kicked, they were punched, they were coerced to taking drugs and to performing sex acts. So this is only the beginning.
The 38-year-old singer said to get emotional on the stand as the prosecution brought up this disturbing security footage CNN uncovered of Diddy beating Cassie in a hotel.
Many people have seen that 2016 video of Sean Combs assaulting his then girlfriend, Cassie Ventura. And the defense said, listen, what you witnessed was wrong. It was inhumane. It was horrible. But that was domestic violence. And they said that is not criminal enterprise. That is not racketeering. But both sides sort of making those compelling arguments and opening statements that for the prosecution, that he is guilty, for the defense obviously saying that he's not guilty of these crimes that he's alleged to have committed.
Cassie's husband, Alex Fine, stepping out in support against the defense's wishes. The judge ruling he'll have to leave should an alleged 2018 rape Cassie accuses Diddy of comes up, after Diddy's lawyers noted they may call him as a witness, claiming he sent the rapper a threatening text over the alleged incident.
We know that according to previous hearings, she could be on that stand for 2
on. Of course, she didn't want that, some jurors may believe. Others, however, could counter, where is the evidence that Diddy forced her to do it against her will?
These freak-offs orchestrated.
So Cassie kind of walked the jury through what her role was in the freak-offs and how she said that Combs had choreographed them. He was the director in charge. And what she described was that these freak-offs lasted from 36 to 72 hours. The longest one, she said, lasted 4 days. And through that period, she said her role had evolved from initially Combs setting up the first one to then it becoming essentially her job. These freak-offs, she said, were occurring weekly. And what she was responsible for was finding these escorts, using Craigslist, some of these other escort services, helping them travel to certain locations from Miami to Ibiza, to New York, to LA, to Las Vegas. And that she worked with Combs's business travel people in order to move people around, saying that they would project that they were potential employers and getting them to move. She said that he had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began with candles, it then moved to studio lighting, that he was directing how they moved from each action of each sexual act in these freak-offs, and even the amount of baby oil that they were wearing. She said that he wanted them to be glistening, and so he would often encourage them to put on more baby oil. And then the part of that testimony, she said, was that she had engaged and used numerous drugs, including ecstasy, GHB, ketamine, cocaine, marijuana, and the prosecution showed text messages where before a freak-off, she is texting Combs asking, which colored pill do I take from your Louis Vuitton med bag? And he
The verdict might be in either direction. Let's now discuss domestic violence. We've all seen the video of Diddy violently beating. Cassie and even Diddy's defense team acknowledged the abuse. However, this isn't a case of domestic violence. Rather, it's about trafficking and coercion. So Diddy's team is essentially saying that yes, they fought, but it went both ways. They're even attempting to show old stories where Cassie acted violently while high. Whether the jury believes that or not is
The moment she opened her mouth, you could see that Combs was listening intently to everything that she has to say, as well as those jurors. People know that she was that star witness, the key person in all of this. When you think about that civil suit that came out in 2023, that was settled the day after, she really is the person that connects all the dots. When you look at the indictment and you look at some of the charges, she's the one talking about the freak-offs and what was involved and how she had to act. The prosecution is asking her questions to show that she wasn't in control. She said that Sean Combs directed everything from what she had on to the lighting in the room to how she was supposed to interact with the person that she was having sex with. And again, just to reiterate what is a freak-off, the freak-off essentially was something that Cassie said she learned about through Sean Combs about a year into their relationship. He described it as voyeurism, wanting to watch her have sex with someone else. And she said